The current project that I'm working on is a project that I've been working on for over 10 years, and it's about busyness in American life. Busyness, or being busy, if you think about it, is something that we all talk about very casually, like we know what it is, but it's actually kind of exotic. Busyness results literally when time gets chopped up into smaller and smaller fragments, and then people are shifting between those fragments. It's important to understand that when we first started studying busyness, it was in the late 1990s, and people were very busy, and people talked about themselves as being very busy. And that was an era before social media. That was an era in which only some of our families had cell phones. And so what has been most fascinating to me was that when we concluded the research on busyness, a lot of people indicated, well, that's it, there's not much more to say about it. And quite to the contrary, busyness seems to have only intensified in importance in the last decade or so. What we've seen in the last 10 years is that technology itself has become much more constitutive of people's everyday activities. Nonetheless, there's the constant quest for labor-saving devices, so that if only I could be better organized, if only I could be more efficient, the kind of pressure that I feel of busyness would go away. Busyness assumes that it's good to pack more in to daily lives, which is in many ways a distinctly modern fascination. It also raises questions in that there's more and more discussion about the consequences of this. Many people shake their heads. They say, oh, I'm so busy, I'm so rushed, I'm so this, I'm so that. And yet, the pace of everyday life seems to intensify and continue, which raises questions about what are the long-term consequences of the busyness. What ethnography allows me to do is to, in effect, view the categories by which people organize their lives in the terms that are meaningful to them. And I think that's something that anthropology always does, and it's something that anthropology always contributes. But it provides a mirror for our own lives. It allows us to reflect upon our lives in a different way and to see that our lives can be different than they are. So I think there's new ways that the fields intersect with each other and that enrich the way that I explore the topics that simply wouldn't be there if I was in a department where we stayed in our offices and we stayed in our proverbial silos, not talking to each other. I think working with archaeologists simply allows me to think about that built environment in different ways, and ironically, I think getting at the same questions. I think the research that I'm doing now, all of the research that I've ever done, I always allow it to play out in classrooms, partially because I'm really committed to the idea that students deserve a kind of education which does not consist of professors simply reading from textbooks. And I think the goal of it is not to tell students how to think, but to help students recognize that they should be thinkers and they should be researchers and that they should be challenging what they see going on around them. I think it's anthropology and the integration of ethnography with the other research methods in anthropology that can present a view to ordinary people about how we're living that's a relatively non-judgmental view, not telling people what they should be doing, but it does give an opportunity to kind of step back from life and to allow people to say, is this what I want, and could it be different?